So what's happening with KUSCCO SACCO? Lots of money lost, billions of money lost, and people are wondering what's happening. In this video, guys, we're going to be talking about the scandal, the new scandal in town in Kenya, which is the KUSCCO scandal. KUSCCO stands for Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives. In this video, we want to delve into the scandal. Billions of money have been lost. KUSCCO basically is a body that represents, or I would say, it's a lobbyist. It's a body that formed to lobby for Saccos. So it's more like Saccos also have unions, right? A Sacco is a union, obviously, and then Saccos also have a union, which is the KUSCCO. KUSCCO is the lobbying body for KUSCCO. It's supposed to be the representative of all the Saccos. So what has happened to KUSCCO as a Sacco? We're going to delve into the details. We're going to talk about how this affects you as well, especially if you invest in a Sacco in Kenya. And we're going to see if you should be worried about your money, your dividends payment or not. So it's that simple, guys. In this video, we just want to go into this scandal. We want to understand it in details. And we also want to see how this impacts you. And also then at the end of the video, have a bit of financial advice on how you can always leverage yourself against such impacts and such things that you can't actually control. Because in this case, you can't control what's happening with the body that represents Sacco, the body that basically houses all the other Saccos. You can't control what is happening there, but I always say certain things I'll mention at the end of the video just so that you are always protected as you invest, because these things can happen. It can happen to KUSCCO, can happen to your Sacco, can happen to your money market fund, can happen to your real estate developer, can happen to anybody you are investing with. Investing is a process. Investing is a risk that you're taking. You must be able to evaluate those risks and understand them to a certain degree so that you don't just end up in a hole that you don't know how to get yourself out of. Let's get on. As usual, this Ken's Money Matters talk about the money mindset, how to make that money, how to manage that money, how to enjoy that money, how to invest that money, and how to assure yourself of a lifetime of income, basically financial freedom. Should you be worried as an investor? Do you have a Sacco? Let me know in the comment section below. Are you investing in Saccos? And if you're investing, do you feel shaken or worried about what is happening? And if you've not heard what is happening, I'm the one who will tell you today, guys. So like I've said, KUSCCO is basically like a lobbyist body. So it was created to represent Saccos. So Saccos are, of course, chamas that are a bit more, I would say, more civilized chamas. And then KUSCCO is like the representative body. So the problem is that when KUSCCO was formed, the main intention was for it to be a lobbyist body for Saccos. Saccos' interests are supposed to be taken there. They're supposed to, lobby for the interests of the Sacco, for the growth of the Saccos, for any policies and laws that affect Saccos. They're supposed to be the lobbyist group and make sure that they had the intermediary between, let's say, Saccos and government and other bodies that could want to interact with Saccos. That is the main intention why KUSCCO was actually formed. But somewhere in this process, in the middle of everything happening, they decided that they're going to be taking money as a Sacco, and they're going to be taking deposits and engaging in financial interactions, financial relationships, which is actually what which is actually not what it was formed for. So what happens in that case? They start taking in money, but remember, because they are not a real Sacco, there is no proper regulatory structure for them. They are just supposed to be a lobbyist group. So they actually did go against the law by getting into this field of taking deposits, taking deposits just like a normal Sacco, but they did take deposits from these Saccos, and they have been doing this for a very long time. Now, funny enough, no one actually flagged this up and said, hey, you're not a Sacco, you're not supposed to be taking deposits because you don't fall under the normal regulatory structures of a Sacco. You haven't done your due diligence. You haven't done everything that a normal Sacco is supposed to do before you take any deposits. But it took deposits, and it took billions and billions of money. Now, where does the deposit comes from? It comes from the Saccos, right? The Saccos that you belong to, like Mwalimu, Stima, all those big Saccos you belong to, they then put their deposit there. They kind of invest that money as well. They're investing in here as well. So you invest into them, they also put money somewhere else. This is not what they're supposed to do, but they did it anyway. How they did it and why and how it happened for so long, I don't know. So there was a report recently compiled by PricewaterhouseCoopers on the financial management of the Sacco. I would call it a Sacco in this case. There was some kind of proper audit, and it came up with damning revelations of financial management, misappropriation of funds, misallocation of funds, unregulated withdrawals to executives, double payments to purchases, basically lots of embezzlement of funds in the Sacco. And the shocker is, as we speak, there are 12.5 billion insolvent. What does that mean? It means they are underwater. they have no assets. So a Sacco that had billions and billions of money have lost over 13 billion Kenya shillings and has left them 12.5 billion insolvent. Meaning right now, if this KUSCCO was to be dissolved and for them to actually pay their liabilities is way more than what they have as assets. That means they are underwater. That's what I call it, right? You are in negative, your books are negative. It means if you pay all your debtors today, you are basically insolvent. You have nothing left. So you are operating on what? On hot air. So of course there have been like lots of information. The CS with Oparanya has been trying to push the security agencies to kind of come up with a solution, try to investigate this whole scandal that's been happening. That's normal in Kenya. These people have been withdrawing billions and billions of money for years and nothing has been done so far. The ones who are arrested, who are right at the center of the scandal recently, are already out on bond, and that's how it happens in Kenya. You have loads of money anyways. You go to the courts, you can always get your way out. And that's how it happens in our country. It's unfortunate, it's sad, but that's the reality. So right now, as we speak, the people who are at the center of the scandal are already out on bond. And I can assure you, that's it. There's nothing much that will be done. They will find ways of paying everyone involved, including the security agencies, even the judges, so that they get off the hook. And that's it. That's it. And then people will lose a lot of money. Now, it's sad, but that's the truth. Just to mention that KUSCCO is still going to be operating. It's not being disbanded. It's supposed to be focused on this main role, which is advocacy and to check compliance of Saccos and stuff, but they're not supposed to be taking any money. So the part of them accepting deposits and engaging in these financial transactions is going to be stopped, but that doesn't affect or impact the fact that things have happened so far. Now, the first question is, how many Saccos belong to KUSCCO as we speak? And we are talking about 247 Saccos. So likely that your Sacco that you're investing with belongs to KUSCCO. So 247 Saccos, credit unions belong to KUSCCO. In that sense, I will also tell you which top ones. I won't tell you all of them because they didn't actually release all of them because of panic. People might panic and then start withdrawing money, and all these things can make people panic. And the moment people start withdrawing money at the same time, you know what happens? It collapses, right? So they want you not to panic. They want you not to worry. But 247 Saccos belong to KUSCCO, and it means that the money that was embezzled is actually people's money. That's the point that you need to take home, that the money that was embezzled is people's money. People who invest their money in Saccos, people who then deposit their money in savings, that's the money that you're talking about in this case. So don't think it's some money from anywhere. It's your money if you're investing in a Sacco. It's part of your money. It could be one bob, relatively, if you look at your shares and stuff, but then it is your money that has been embezzled. Now, of course, as we speak, the government has directed all the members of KUSCCO, the 247 Saccos, to reduce their dividend payouts, and we're coming at a time whereby dividends are going to be paid out. They have been directed to reduce their dividend payouts so that they can cover the losses by KUSCCO. Now, that is where it comes to you. That's where the rubber touches the road. This is your money, and now you are supposed to get a dividend of, let's say between 8 and 10% like most Saccos would pay, and we're going to that time when most Saccos are going to have their AGM, and therefore they're going to read out their dividend payouts. Now, they have been directed that for them to cover these losses, they need to reduce their dividend payouts, and that process might not be just 1 year, might not just be this one single time for them to actually cover the losses, depending on how much money they had in there. And if you are part of this big Saccos, which could have deposited lots of money in there as well, then you're definitely going to be affected, because if you are going to get a dividend of, let's say 8%, you're now going to get, let's say 6% or 7%, depending on what they decide, because they haven't had the AGM. So we still don't know how much will actually be shaved off. But as we speak, you're going to be losing some money in this process, so you should be ready for it. You should be ready that if you're going to get your 10% dividend and you've been very consistently getting your 10% dividend, this time it might not be the same. So just be prepared for that. Be aware that you might not get the same dividend. And like I've said, it depends on the amount of losses that a particular Sacco has taken through the KUSCCO scandal. So if it is a lot of losses, then you don't expect that dividend shave off or cut off to be just 1 year. It can span over 1 to 2 years to 3 years to 4 years to even 5 years. So instead of them giving you all the profit they have made and giving you very nice dividends like you always do, they have to cover their losses that they have suffered with KUSCCO. And that is how it affects you directly if you are someone investing with a Sacco. So it means if I was going to get a 10% dividend, you're getting 8%. Obviously, you've taken off my 2% in a scandal that I didn't know nothing about. I wasn't part of the decision. I wasn't part of the making sure that due diligence is done. It's the Saccos that's supposed to do their due diligence. So if all the 247 Saccos did not do their due diligence and have structures in place to protect their money in this representative body, then again, you blame the Sacco, right? you blame the Sacco. You can't blame yourself because it's not your issue, but you still have to pay for it somehow. And that's the unfair ground of investing, guys. So I also mentioned that this body had basically collected 24.8 billion in deposits from all the 247 Saccos. And that reveals that, and the audit did reveal that the 13 billion has been lost, 13.3 billion Kenya shillings has been lost, and has left it insolvent by 12.5 billion, like I mentioned. Now, that's a big gap for people to actually cover. So if you invested in KUSCCO, they have been asked to take this into consideration if they're going to pay out any profits or any dividends so that they can cover these losses, and that will affect the big Saccos more than the small Saccos. Now, just to read it verbatim here, we are telling them that this profit you have made, instead of giving members of all of it, get a portion of it and set aside a provision. It is a good way, especially now that they, the Saccos, are declaring dividends so that they can pay their members. So they need to be aware that there's no money in KUSCCO, and therefore they are supposed to take care of that when they are declaring their profits. Basically, they're going to declare less profits than they would have declared, right? Because they want to cover whatever is happening. They have even said here that some Saccos have been advised to stagger the provisions over several years, like I mentioned earlier. They have been advised to stagger the provisions over several years, meaning if they were going to cut you 2%, 2% or 1%, 1%, it's going to go for 5 years. Now imagine you paying a loss that you didn't actually contribute to for the next 5 years. So it's quite a sad scenario, but this is how things happen, right? This is the country we live in, and some things can happen that you don't imagine, because such a big body taking so much deposit, 24 billion plus, without proper regulations as a serious Sacco that is under the compliance mechanisms of the country, is a big issue, right? So it's not something that you blame yourself for. It's just something that is way beyond your control, but it just explains to you how the investment world can be unfair sometimes, especially to normal investors like you and I. So one thing I wanted to mention, which are some of the Saccos that are going to be affected, the big ones, right? So there are 247, obviously. I'm not going to mention 247 Saccos. They didn't even give us a list anyways. But data from 2023 is ranking the top 5 deposit-taking Saccos by assets. Now, these are the Saccos that have loads of assets in KUSCCO. And we're talking about Mwalimu National Sacco. We're talking about Stima Sacco, which has loads of people. I know my clients in there. We're talking about Kenya National Police Sacco. We're talking about Harambee Sacco. We're talking about Tower Sacco as well. Even the government has cast doubt on the ability of these Saccos to recover their losses in KUSCCO scandal, because they could have had so much money in KUSCCO that it will be difficult for them to recover. So once again, this is it. This is the scandal we are facing right now in Kenya. It's affecting you. That's how it's affecting you guys. And like I always said, at the end of the video, let me just give you a bit of a tip. It's investing. It comes with risks, even if you think it's very safe. Even the Saccos that you think are extremely safe, nothing is 100% safe. So what do you do? On your part, you have to do your due diligence first before you invest. Make sure you've done your due diligence. On this particular one, I cannot blame anybody, not your responsibility. It's the Saccos that are members of this body that were supposed to do their due diligence before they put in so much money. They should have known what was happening in this body. Up to now, they didn't know. The government had to call for a forensic audit, and that's what uncovered this whole thing. And it could have been going for years. As we see from here, it's been going for quite a long time. And the Saccos didn't get to know, the government didn't get to know. This is not upon you. But what can you do as an investor is, anytime you're investing in something, know that you're leveraging your risk, okay? Don't be someone who says, oh, I only know about Saccos, they have been very safe, I'm going to invest there. I only know about banks, they have been very safe, I'm going to put my money in there. You know, you have to spread your eggs. You have to diversify well. You have to put your eggs in different baskets. That's how you get to actually not lose so much money. So if you are depending on the dividends this year to, let's say, sustain your livelihood, then that's a problem, right? Especially if they tell you they're going to cut your dividend by 2-3%. That's a large chunk of money. So you have to figure out what the other sources are, what could you get money from, what are the other investments that you have. So diversification is very important. The other thing you have to do is, this teaches us that we should look at the management of a company. Anytime you want to invest in any kind of Sacco, please, most people don't, but look at the management. Who are the managers? Who are the people responsible? How solid are they? How much have they changed over a period of time? What kind of image do they have? All these things you want to look at once you're investing in any kind of Sacco. So just doing your part. But of course, like I say, you can't prevent everything, but you can limit. Diversification will really help you limit this kind of impacts. I hope that's been helpful, guys. Until next time, I'm out.